I always thought marriage was supposed to be the beginning of happiness, a chapter where two hearts beat as one, and two families come together in unity. But from the very day I said, I do, my life turned into a constant war of survival, because I married a man who belonged not to me, but to his mother. His name was Terence Carter, tall, caramel-skinned, and soft-spoken. He looked like everything I prayed for. He showered me with attention, opened doors for me, and called me queen. But behind that sweet smile and gentle tone was a man who could not make a single decision without running to his mother, Ms. Loretta Carter. Our wedding was beautiful. The church in Newtown was decorated with lilies and roses. My dress sparkled as I walked down the aisle, and everyone said I looked like a princess. But even then, the signs were there. His mother clung to his arm at the reception, fixing his tie, feeding him cake, and reminding me, without words, that she was the one he loved the most. I ignored it. Love blinded me. But soon, reality slapped me hard. We didn't even get to enjoy our honeymoon in peace. Terence had promised me a week in Miami. I packed swimsuits, sundresses, and a journal to capture memories. But on the second day, his mother called. Baby, have you eaten? Did you take your vitamins? Don't swim too much. The water down there is dangerous. He spent hours on the phone, smiling and laughing, while I sat by the hotel window staring at the ocean waves. At night, instead of cuddling me, he was busy texting her, sending pictures of every meal we ate. I felt invisible. I felt like a side chick to his mama. When we returned from Miami, I thought things would get better. I was wrong. Instead of starting our life in our new apartment, Terence insisted we move into his mama's house for a while, just to save money. I tried to protest. Baby, we're married now. Don't you think we need our own space? He kissed my forehead and whispered, It's just temporary, my queen. Temporary turned into months. Loretta ran the house like a military camp. She cooked meals and told me, I know what my son likes. You can just watch and learn. She washed his clothes, ironed his shirts, and even polished his shoes. I was a stranger in my own marriage. One Sunday, Loretta cooked her famous collard greens and fried chicken. Terence bragged to everyone at the table, Nobody cooks like my mama. Not even close. I smiled, but inside, my heart shattered. When I offered to bring out dessert, Loretta laughed and said, Baby, you can sit down. I don't want you messing up my kitchen. Her friends chuckled. I felt small, like a child in my own home. It wasn't just about food. Loretta criticized everything I did. If I folded clothes, she'd redo them. If I tried to decorate the living room, she'd move things back. She even told Terence, Son, your wife needs to learn how to keep a house like a real Carter woman. And Terence, he said nothing. He always defended her. That's just how Mama is. Don't take it personal. But how could I not? I felt like I was fighting for a place that should already belong to me. A year into the marriage, I wanted a baby. But Loretta had her own plans. One night, I told Terence, I think it's time we start a family. He hesitated. Mama said we should wait. She thinks we should focus on building first. I blinked. Mama said? Or you said? He looked away. That was the night I realized I wasn't building a marriage. I was babysitting a grown man. Things got worse when Loretta started coming into our bedroom unannounced. She'd knock once and push the door open, saying, Just checking on my baby. Sometimes, she even sat on the bed, rubbing his back while I lay on the other side in disbelief. I tried talking to Terence. This is not normal. You're my husband, not her little boy anymore. He frowned. Don't disrespect my mama. She raised me. That night, I cried myself to sleep. One weekend, Loretta traveled to visit her sister. For the first time, it was just Terence and me in the house. We laughed, cooked together, danced in the living room, and even talked about traveling again. I saw the man I fell in love with. I prayed things would change. But the moment Loretta returned, everything went back to the same. My best friend, Monica, sat me down. Girl, you're not married to a husband. You're married to a child in his mama's arms. You need to wake up. I defended him at first. He just loves her too much. Monica shook her head. No, he loves her more than he loves you. That's the problem. Her words cut deep. The final straw came during Thanksgiving. I cooked all morning, mac and cheese, turkey, yams. When Terrence tasted my food, he wrinkled his nose and whispered, "Mama's version is better." Loretta laughed and said, "Well, not everyone can cook like me." I dropped the serving spoon and walked out of the dining room. That night, I packed my bags. Terrence begged, "Don't leave, baby. Mama will change." I looked him in the eyes and said, "No, Terrence, you will never change. You're her husband, not mine." I moved into my own apartment. At first, it felt lonely. I cried. I doubted myself. I wondered if I made a mistake. But slowly, I found peace. I decorated my space, cooked meals I enjoyed, and slept without interruptions. For the first time, I felt like myself again. My marriage to Terrence taught me something important. Love is not enough when a man is still tied to his mama's apron strings. Marriage requires independence, maturity, and boundaries. Terrence had none of that. I realized I'd rather be alone than fight for a place in my own husband's heart. Months later, I filed for divorce. Loretta showed up at the courthouse, holding Terrence's hand like he was still a boy. She glared at me and said, "You'll regret this." But I didn't. I signed those papers with a steady hand and walked out free. Today, I'm stronger. I focus on my career, my friendships, and my happiness. Sometimes, I think back and laugh at how blind I was. I once married a man who belonged to his mama. But now, I belong to myself. To every woman reading my story, never ignore the signs. If he runs to his mama for every decision, if she controls his life, and if he cannot put you first, walk away. Love yourself enough to demand more. Because at the end of the day, I learned this truth. It's better to be single than to be married to a mummy's boy. Even after I moved out, Terrence wouldn't stop calling. "Baby, please come back. Mama said she's willing to let us live on our own." But I knew his words were empty. Every promise Terrence made came straight from Loretta's mouth. She wasn't letting him go, and he wasn't willing to cut the cord. I ignored his late-night calls, even though sometimes I cried afterward. One Sunday, I attended service at the church we both used to go to. Terrence was there, with Loretta, of course. After service, Loretta walked up to me with a smug smile. "You broke my son's heart. A real woman stands by her man." I looked her straight in the eyes and replied, "A real man leaves his mama's house when he marries a wife." Gasps spread through the church hallway. Loretta's smile dropped. Terrence stood frozen, silent as usual. Filing for divorce wasn't as easy as I thought. Terrence delayed signing the papers. He kept showing up at my apartment with flowers, saying, "Mama said I should fight for you." Not he wanted me back, but Mama said. That was all I needed to know. I got promoted at work and offered a transfer to Houston. It was a chance to start fresh. I thought long and hard about it. Moving meant truly cutting off Terrence. But deep down, I knew that's what I needed. When Loretta found out about my plans to leave Atlanta, she stormed into my apartment one evening. "You think you can just walk away from my son? From this family? I will make sure everyone knows you're a quitter." I calmly replied, "Ma'am, your son was never mine. He's still yours. You can keep him." Her face twisted with anger, but she couldn't break me anymore. A week before I left for Houston, Terrence showed up crying. "I'm sorry, baby. I'll do better. I'll tell Mama to back off." But when his phone rang and I heard Loretta's voice shouting through the speaker, "Boy, where are you?" he panicked and left in a rush. That was all the proof I needed. Moving to Houston felt like shedding old skin. The air was new, the streets unfamiliar, and best of all, no Terrence, no Loretta. I threw myself into my career, joined a women's book club, and started reconnecting with myself. Slowly, I was healing. In Houston, I met Sabrina and Janelle, two strong women who had their own messy stories about love. We bonded over wine nights, laughter, and honest conversations. For the first time in years, I felt understood. One afternoon, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Terrence. "My queen, I can't live without you. Mama is sick. She needs me more than ever, but I need you too. Please come back." I crumpled the paper. His words were always the same, half promises, full of excuses. After months of delay, the divorce finally went through. When I saw the signed papers, a weight lifted off my shoulders. I celebrated with Sabrina and Janelle, toasting with champagne. For the first time, I truly felt free. News traveled fast. Friends back home told me Terrence was still living with Loretta. Some whispered he had started dating again, but every relationship failed because Loretta chased the women away. I shook my head. That was no longer my battle. At a networking event, I met Stanley Green, a confident, independent man who ran his own business. He was nothing like Terrence. He made decisions on his own, respected boundaries, and treated me like an equal. I was cautious, but intrigued. Just when things with Stanley started feeling serious, Terrence called me again out of nowhere. "I heard you're seeing someone else. Mama says no man will treat you better than me." I laughed bitterly. "Terrence, your mama was your marriage, not me. Leave me alone." I blocked his number that night. Instead of rushing into something with Stanley, I focused on myself, therapy, journaling, and rediscovering hobbies I'd abandoned during my marriage. I learned that healing wasn't about finding a new man. It was about finding me. Stanley respected my boundaries. He never rushed me. One evening, he said, "I don't want to replace anyone in your life. I just want to build something new if you're ready." His words warmed me. For the first time, I believed love could exist without control or dependency. Through the grapevine, I learned Loretta's health had worsened. Terrence was still by her side, unmarried, still clinging to her every word. Some part of me pitied him. But another part whispered, "That could have been you, trapped forever." On my birthday, I wrote a letter to my past self. You deserved better. You deserved freedom. You deserved a husband, not a boy tied to his mama. I cried reading my own words, but it felt like closure. I finally accepted that my marriage wasn't a failure. It was a lesson. A lesson about boundaries, love, and the danger of ignoring red flags. I wore my scars like armor, not shame. As Stanley and I grew closer, I realized I wasn't rushing into love. I was choosing it. This time, with clear eyes and a steady heart. He never compared me to anyone, never ran to another woman for approval. He saw me, just me. And that was enough. Looking back, I don't regret leaving Terrence. I regret staying as long as I did. Marriage to a mummy's boy taught me the hardest truth. You cannot build a future with someone who still lives in the shadow of their past. Today, I am free, independent, and loved on my own terms. And that is worth more than any wedding ring. Just when I thought I'd heard the last of Terrence, his cousin Deborah called me. "Girl, Terrence ain't doing good. Loretta's health is slipping, and he's falling apart. He keeps talking about you." I sighed. I felt a small ache in my chest, but I reminded myself I wasn't his savior. Months later, I traveled back to Newtown for a family reunion. Walking through my old neighborhood felt strange, like stepping into a life I had outgrown. At the grocery store, I ran into Loretta. She was thinner, her once sharp tongue softened by illness. She didn't insult me this time. She just whispered, "You were the only woman who truly cared for him." Her words stunned me. That evening, Terrence showed up at my cousin's house. His eyes were red. "Why did you leave me? Why didn't you stay and fight for us?" I looked at him with pity, not anger. "Because I wasn't fighting you, Terrence. I was fighting your mama, and you chose her every time." He wept, but I didn't comfort him. That chapter of my life was closed. Back in Houston, I told Stanley about running into Terrence and Loretta. He held my hand gently. "You don't owe them anything. You chose yourself. And that's the bravest thing you ever did." His words grounded me. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty for leaving. I felt proud. A few months later, word reached me that Loretta had passed away. She died quietly, surrounded by family. Terrence sank deeper into depression. He had no wife, no children, no home of his own, just memories of a mama who never let him grow. I sent a small sympathy card. Nothing more. Terrence called again after the funeral. His voice was hollow. "She's gone. I don't know who I am without her." I felt a sting of sadness, but I stayed firm. "You should have learned who you were while she was alive." He asked if we could meet. I declined. One evening, Stanley surprised me with dinner at a rooftop restaurant. As the city lights glowed beneath us, he knelt and said, "I know where you've been. I know what you survived. But if you're ready, I want to build something real with you." Tears filled my eyes. This time, I said yes, not out of desperation, but out of choice. Before my wedding to Stanley, I visited Loretta's grave. I laid down white lilies and whispered, "I forgive you. You loved your son too much, and it ruined him. But I won't let it ruin me." For the first time, I felt truly free from her shadow. My wedding to Stanley was nothing like my first. It wasn't about fancy decorations or outside approval. It was about love, partnership, and respect. As I walked down the aisle, I wasn't nervous. I was certain. No Loretta, no chains. Just me and the man who chose me. Years later, I look back at my marriage to Terrence not with bitterness, but with gratitude. It showed me the danger of marrying a man who never grew up. Terrence remains in Atlanta, still trying to piece his life together without Loretta. As for me, I built a home full of peace, laughter, and freedom. The biggest lesson I carry is this: never fight for space in a man's life when his heart already belongs to his mama. Walk away, choose yourself, and open the door to real love. And that's exactly what I did.